The comfortable silence between David and me was a profound language refined over 40 years, a rich tapestry woven from countless shared dinners, late-night talks that stretched into the early hours of dawn, memorable fishing trips, and the unwavering, reliable presence that had always anchored our individual lives. We had navigated the tumultuous waters of adolescence together, sharing youthful dreams and whispered fears, cheered each other through painfully awkward first dates, stood proudly as best men at each other's weddings, and comforted one another through the inevitable heartbreaks and profound losses that life invariably delivers with uncompromising regularity. My beloved wife, Sarah, God rest her soul, had always affectionately referred to David as my other half, a testament to the profound, almost familial bond we shared, a bond that felt as solid and immutable as the very ground beneath our feet. An enduring constant in a perpetually changing world. For nearly 5 decades, our lives had unfolded on remarkably parallel tracks, distinct yet always intricately interconnected, a comforting rhythm that had settled into the dependable hum of middle age, a reassuring predictability that defined our existence. On this particular Tuesday, David had arrived at my modest home just as the late afternoon sun began its gentle descent, painting the western sky with a breathtaking palette of fiery oranges and deep purples. Carrying a bottle of my favorite single malt scotch and the familiar, easy smile that always instantaneously put me at ease, smoothing away the frayed edges of a long week. We settled into our deeply worn leather armchairs, the very ones we'd practically grown old in together, each comfortable creak and groan of the aged material a whispered memory of countless evenings gone by, and began our usual, time-honored ritual of catching up on the week's mundane yet oddly comforting events. He talked at length about his most recent fishing trip up north, describing in meticulous, almost loving detail the elusive trophy catch that had frustratingly gotten away, recounting every thrilling moment of the struggle, and I, in turn, recounted a particularly frustrating day at the law office, navigating bureaucratic red tape and demanding clients, the usual comforting exchange of everyday trivialities that formed the bedrock of our enduring friendship. There was absolutely nothing, no discernible clue whatsoever in his outwardly composed demeanor to suggest the impending seismic shift, no flicker of a telltale emotion in his familiar hazel eyes, no tremor in his usually steady hands, that hinted at the profound, life-altering confession simmering just beneath the surface of our decades-long bond. I poured another generous splash of amber liquid into our crystal glasses, the gentle clinking of ice cubes the only sound in the comfortably silent room, completely, blissfully unaware that this perfectly ordinary Tuesday evening was about to become the most extraordinary, soul-stirring night of my entire existence, a night that would forever redefine my understanding of love and friendship. The accumulated weight of all our shared yesterdays, of every laughter and every tear, filled the air, thick and rich, an invisible force that felt both immensely comforting and, unbeknownst to me, strangely restrictive, holding back a monumental truth that was finally desperate after so many years to break free from its silent prison. My gaze lingered on his profile, a face etched with the gentle lines of time, a face I knew as well as my own, completely unprepared for the revelation that was about to unfold, poised to shatter every preconceived notion I held about our relationship and, indeed, about myself. The late afternoon light softened further, deepening the shadows around David's familiar features as he took a slow, deliberate sip of his scotch, his gaze fixed on the dancing amber liquid in his glass, an unspoken weight seeming to settle over him. I felt a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a delicate tremor beneath the surface of our comfortable camaraderie, as if the air itself had grown thicker, charged with an unfamiliar electricity. His usual easy chatter about mundane happenings had ceased, replaced by a profound, almost unnerving silence that resonated with a significance I couldn't yet grasp, but which nevertheless raised the fine hairs on my arms. My own initial calm began to fray at the edges, a nascent anxiety stirring in my chest as I waited, patiently at first, then with growing apprehension, for him to continue, for him to articulate whatever heavy thought was clearly occupying his mind. Finally, after what felt like an eternity suspended in that taut silence, he cleared his throat, a small, gravelly sound that seemed to pull me back from the edge of an unspoken abyss, and slowly set his glass down on the polished wooden coaster between us. He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, his gaze finally lifting to meet mine, and in those familiar hazel eyes I saw a raw vulnerability, a naked emotion that sent an unexpected jolt through my entire being. It was a look I had never witnessed in all our decades of friendship, a mixture of profound sorrow and desperate courage, completely disarming me and rendering me utterly speechless. "Alex," he began, his voice a low, hesitant murmur that seemed to carry the full weight of the 40 years that had passed between us. "There's something I need to tell you." The simplicity of his words belied the immense gravity they carried, each syllable dropping into the quiet room like a stone, sending ripples through the calm surface of our shared history. My mind raced, scrambling to comprehend what sort of confession could possibly hold such profound weight, fearing a health crisis or perhaps a financial disaster, anything but the truth that was slowly, inexorably, beginning to dawn upon me with chilling clarity. Before I could formulate a response or even articulate a single question, his hand, trembling almost imperceptibly, reached out and gently, tentatively, covered mine where it rested on the armrest of my chair, a silent, almost desperate plea for understanding and acceptance. The warmth of his skin, the unexpected firmness of his touch, sent a shockwave directly through me, a thrilling current that bypassed my rational mind and went straight to my core, awakening something deep within me that I had long suppressed, perhaps even forgotten. It was a physical contact that instantly transcended the platonic boundaries of our long-standing friendship, becoming something undeniably intimate. Hey, thanks for watching until this point. Please leave a comment if you're enjoying the video. It really helps us grow the channel and reach more people. And hey, thank you very much. Let's get back to story. Hinting at a passion that had silently simmered beneath the surface of our lives for an unimaginable length of time. My breath caught in my throat, my pulse quickened, and every fiber of my being became acutely aware of his presence, the soft press of his palm against mine, a physical manifestation of the unspoken truth that was finally, after 40 years, poised to erupt between us with earth-shattering force. His hand, warm and unexpectedly firm upon mine, became the singular focus of my entire universe, every other thought and sound dissolving into an indistinct hum as the profound weight of his unspoken words pressed down upon me. The gentle pressure of his fingers, subtly tracing the lines on my palm, sent shivers through me, a thrilling cascade of sensations that felt both terrifying and undeniably alluring, pulling me deeper into the swirling vortex of his raw vulnerability. My gaze remained locked on our joined hands, a silent testament to the 40 years of shared history that now seemed poised on the precipice of an unimaginable revelation, afraid to meet his eyes lest I discover a truth I was not yet ready to face. The air in the room, once so comfortably familiar, now vibrated with an electric tension, charged with the undeniable current of suppressed emotions finally breaking free from their decades-long confinement. "Alex," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper yet infused with an intensity that commanded my complete attention. I've loved you, not just as a friend, but as more than a friend for as long as I can remember." The words, when they finally came, landed with the shattering force of a lightning bolt, tearing through the carefully constructed facade of our platonic relationship and plunging me into a dizzying abyss of disbelief and overwhelming emotion. My breath hitched in my throat, a silent gasp escaping my lips as the full magnitude of his confession washed over me, rewriting every single memory, every shared laugh, every comforting silence we had ever experienced together. All those moments, once viewed through the lens of platonic affection, now suddenly shimmered with a new, startlingly intimate light, revealing a hidden undercurrent of unspoken desire that had always, unknowingly, existed between us. My mind reeled, grappling with the profound implications of his admission, simultaneously flooded with a bewildering mix of shock, fear, and a strange, undeniable surge of a longing I had never dared to acknowledge within myself. His thumb, as if sensing the tumultuous storm raging inside me, began to gently stroke the back of my hand, a tender, reassuring gesture that somehow grounded me amidst the chaos, pulling me back from the brink of complete emotional overwhelm. The simple touch, imbued with decades of unspoken affection and now explicit desire, resonated deep within my soul, stirring a dormant part of me that had been yearning for something profoundly intimate, something authentically real. For what felt like an entire lifetime. He slowly, deliberately tightened his grip on my hand, his hazel eyes, now brimming with unshed tears, finally meeting mine, and in their depths, I saw not just profound love, but also a desperate plea for understanding. For a reciprocal acknowledgement of a passion that had silently burned for so long. The unspoken question hung heavy in the air, trembling between us, demanding a response that would either shatter our world irrevocably or rebuild it, piece by magnificent piece, into something breathtakingly new and infinitely more profound. The profound honesty shining in David's tear-filled eyes, coupled with the tender, unwavering pressure of his hand intertwined with mine, rendered me utterly speechless, my mind a swirling maelstrom of conflicting emotions and dizzying revelations. Every fiber of my being seemed to vibrate with a mixture of terror and an intoxicating exhilaration, as if the very foundations of my long-established reality were crumbling and simultaneously reforming into something utterly new and terrifyingly beautiful. I could feel the rapid, frantic beat of my own heart reverberating in my ears, a thunderous drumroll accompanying the dawning realization that the comfortable, platonic landscape of our friendship had just been irrevocably transformed into a vibrant, unexplored terrain of raw, undeniable possibility. The casual warmth of his touch had transmuted into an electric current coursing through my veins, awakening dormant senses and igniting a deep, unfamiliar yearning within me that had, for decades, remained stubbornly dormant beneath layers of societal expectation and personal repression. My initial shock began to slowly recede, giving way to a tidal wave of memories now replaying themselves in my mind's eye, each moment with David suddenly imbued with a startlingly different, deeply intimate meaning. The shared glances that lasted a beat too long, the casual touches that lingered imperceptibly, the moments of intense understanding that felt more profound than any connection I had ever experienced with another soul. All these fragments of our shared past now coalesced into a mosaic of unspoken affection, a hidden narrative of unacknowledged desire that had been silently woven into the very fabric of our lives. My own hand, almost involuntarily, tightened its grip on his, a subconscious response to the powerful truth that had just been laid bare, a silent, trembling acknowledgement of a connection that felt both utterly forbidden and undeniably right. The air in the room grew heavy with the weight of decades of unspoken longing, a palpable density that pressed down on us, urging us towards a momentous decision. He gently squeezed my hand again, a silent question passing between us, his gaze unwavering, full of a patient hope that was almost unbearable in its intensity, compelling me to confront the deep, swirling emotions that had erupted within my chest. My throat felt suddenly tight, constricted by the sheer magnitude of what he had confessed and the dizzying implications it held for both our lives, for the very essence of who we believed ourselves to be. Reaching out with my free hand, almost on instinct, I gently, tentatively, cupped his jaw, my thumb stroking the soft stubble there, a spontaneous gesture of comfort and, to my own profound surprise, a burgeoning reciprocal tenderness. The familiar warmth of his skin beneath my fingertips was immediate, electric, sending a powerful shiver of pure, unadulterated yearning through me, a raw confession of my own suppressed desires. My gaze searched his, seeking confirmation, a permission to truly feel, to truly acknowledge the profound intimacy that had just exploded into our reality, promising a future that was suddenly far more vibrant and infinitely more terrifying than any I had ever dared to imagine. The touch of my hand against David's jaw, a gesture born from a sudden, overwhelming surge of tenderness, seemed to ignite a reciprocal spark in his eyes, transforming his gaze from hopeful pleading to a profound, almost reverent wonder that held me utterly captive. My thumb continued its slow, deliberate caress against his skin, feeling the faint stubble, the subtle warmth radiating from him, each stroke a silent affirmation of the raw, undeniable emotions now swirling between us, erasing the boundaries of our long-held friendship. The air in the room thickened, charged with an almost palpable energy, as if decades of unspoken desires had suddenly materialized into a shimmering, incandescent force that pulled us inexorably closer, making every breath a conscious, exhilarating effort. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic rhythm that threatened to drown out the very sound of my thoughts, as the weight of his confession combined with the intoxicating feel of his skin beneath my fingers began to completely overwhelm my senses. He leaned into my touch, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh escaping his lips, his eyes fluttering closed for a brief, vulnerable moment, as if savoring the unexpected intimacy that had just erupted between us after so many years of quiet yearning. My own eyes, fixed on his face, observed the subtle lines etched around his eyes, the familiar curve of his mouth, now imbued with a new, breathtaking significance that hinted at a lifetime of shared glances and suppressed affections finally coming to light. The silence that stretched between us was no longer comfortable or routine. It was a profound, potent silence, filled with the echoes of unspoken words and unacknowledged desires. A sacred space where the past and future converged in a single, thrilling moment of truth. My gaze dropped from his closed eyes to his lips, noting the subtle tremor there. A silent invitation that felt both terrifyingly bold and undeniably compelling, drawing me in with an irresistible magnetism. Then, with a gentle, almost hesitant movement, David slowly reached up, his fingers carefully intertwining with mine as my hand still cradled his jaw, and he brought our joined hands down to rest between us, never breaking the intense, mesmerizing contact of our eyes. "Alex," he murmured again, his voice now a low, husky whisper that vibrated through my very soul, laden with decades of unexpressed love and desperate hope. I know this is a lot, but I've carried this for so long and I couldn't any longer." His honesty was a physical force, washing over me like a warm wave, washing away the last vestiges of my doubt and fear, replacing them with a surge of overwhelming empathy and a burgeoning, undeniable desire that resonated deep within my chest. I felt an uncontrollable urge to pull him closer, to bridge the remaining distance that separated our bodies, to taste the truth that had been locked behind his lips for what felt like an eternity. My fingers instinctively tightened around his, a silent promise of understanding, a reciprocal hunger that needed no words. He looked at me, his eyes full of a mixture of raw longing and an almost childlike vulnerability, and slowly, gently, he shifted, leaning further into my space, his body warmth radiating towards me, a silent invitation to a new level of intimacy I was now utterly ready to explore. The air was thick with our shared breath, our unspoken confessions mingling in a potent, intoxicating blend, pulling us towards a precipice where our 40-year friendship was destined to transform into something infinitely more profound and exquisitely dangerous. The palpable tension in the air, thick with decades of unspoken desire and the raw vulnerability of our recent confessions, became an almost unbearable current, pulling David and me inexorably closer, erasing the invisible boundaries that had defined our friendship for so long. His gaze, still locked on mine, held an intensity that spoke volumes without a single word, a silent, powerful plea that resonated deep within my very core, demanding a complete surrender to the profound intimacy that now enveloped us. My hand, still cupping his jaw, felt the subtle tremor beneath his skin, a testament to the magnitude of the moment, and my thumb continued its gentle caress, an unspoken promise of comfort and burgeoning passion. The scent of him, familiar yet suddenly imbued with a new, intoxicating allure, filled my senses, wrapping around me like a warm, inescapable embrace, pulling me further into the intoxicating vortex of his presence. Slowly, almost reverently, David leaned in, his eyes never leaving mine, and the breath caught in my throat, a thrilling anticipation making my heart pound a frantic rhythm against my ribs, echoing the wild, untamed longing that had erupted within me. Our lips met then, a soft, tentative touch that sent a jolt of pure electricity through every fiber of my being. A first kiss after 40 years of quiet yearning that was both profoundly delicate and overwhelmingly potent. It was a kiss that tasted of forgotten dreams and newly found hope, of decades of unspoken affection finally blossoming into something exquisitely real and utterly breathtaking. My eyes fluttered shut, surrendering completely to the intoxicating sensation, the soft pressure of his mouth on mine, the gentle warmth of his breath mingling with my own, creating a perfect, blissful harmony. He deepened the kiss with a soft groan that vibrated through my chest, his free hand leaving my jaw to gently cradle the back of my neck, drawing me even closer until our bodies were pressed together. A seamless fit that felt as if we had always been meant to intertwine this way. My own hand, still intertwined with his, tightened its grip, a silent plea for this moment to last forever, for time to simply halt its relentless march and allow us to exist solely within this exquisite, burgeoning intimacy. His other arm wrapped securely around my waist, pulling me firmly against his solid frame, and I could feel the subtle shift in his muscles, the warmth of his body radiating through our clothes, a raw, undeniable testament to the powerful desire that pulsed between us. The world outside the confines of my living room dissolved into an indistinct hum, all my senses focused on the profound, tender exploration of his lips on mine, the electric current that now flowed effortlessly between our bodies, sparking a passion that transcended decades of polite distance. When he finally pulled back reluctantly, his forehead resting gently against mine, his hazel eyes, now glistening with unshed tears and a profound tenderness, held mine captive, mirroring the overwhelming emotions swirling within me. "Alex," he whispered, his voice thick with raw emotion. "I've waited for this for a lifetime." His honesty was a balm to my soul, soothing decades of unacknowledged loneliness and unspoken yearnings. And I responded by pulling him closer, my hands moving to cup his face, my thumbs gently stroking his cheekbones, a silent promise of everything that was yet to unfold between us. We sat there for a long time, just holding each other, the weight of decades lifting from our shoulders, replaced by a profound sense of peace and a breathtaking anticipation for the future that now stretched before us. Vibrant and full of an intimacy we had only just begun to explore. The confession had indeed changed everything, not shattering our world, but rebuilding it, piece by magnificent piece, into something infinitely more profound and exquisitely beautiful, promising a lifetime of shared truths and intimate discoveries that had been patiently waiting for their moment to bloom. We talked late into the night, sharing suppressed feelings and hidden desires, both recognizing that the tender, raw passion that had finally erupted between us was not just a fleeting spark, but the blazing inferno of a love 40 years in the making, ready to embrace every single beautiful, complicated facet of our lives together.